Love can sometimes feel like an exhausting game of chase, especially when the other person has an avoidant attachment style. The more you try to get close, the more you feel their distance, leaving you drowning in a sea of mixed emotions. You wonder, have all the doors closed? Or is there a wounded heart hidden behind that prickly shell? In reality, even the most avoidant people crave connection and love. The problem is, they need a special approach to feel safe opening up. Even a small gesture or a sincere word at the right time can make all the difference. In this article, we'll explore the inner world of avoidant individuals, understand the reasons behind their detachment, and equip ourselves with the golden keys to break down the invisible barriers in communication. Are you ready to change the game and take the reins in your relationship? Let's begin. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel not to miss the next videos with extremely effective psychological strategies. Your comments are the motivation for us to continue creating useful content every day. To start, let's understand more about avoidant attachment style, its nature, core wound, and inner paradox. Avoidant attachment is one of the four main attachment styles: secure attachment, dismissive avoidant attachment, anxious attachment, and fearful avoidant attachment. The last three are considered insecure, and each is formed around a core wound, the source of emotional pain that triggers avoidance or dependence. With the dismissive avoidant attachment style, the core wound revolves around the fear of losing independence. They are afraid of being tied down or losing control of their personal lives, so their instinctive reaction is to keep their distance, sometimes by building a solid emotional wall. The paradox here is that, despite their seemingly detached and autonomous exterior, they harbor a complex inner life and often daydream about perfect relationships. Dismissive avoidant individuals often pride themselves on their self-sufficiency. They tend to prioritize distance and personal space because it makes them feel safe. But behind the "I don't need anyone" facade lies a different reality. Their inner world is not simply cold or indifferent, it is often filled with intense desires for connection, but in an idealized and often unrealistic way. Interestingly, they tend to imagine a perfect version of a relationship or an ideal partner. This image is so idealized that it seems no one can meet it. Unconsciously, they use this ideal as a shield, keeping others from getting close to them. By setting unattainable standards, they maintain the emotional distance they feel they need to protect themselves from hurt. A notable aspect of the dismissive avoidant attachment style is the concept of the imaginary ex. This is the image of a past partner that they can't stop idealizing. While the actual relationship may not have been perfect, in their mind it becomes a perfect model that no one can match. This creates a complex emotional loop. Not only do they keep their distance from new people, but they also constantly compare anyone to their idealized memory of their ex. This phenomenon is not merely nostalgia or regret, but also reflects how they use the past to maintain an unrealistic vision of relationships. They may not realize that this comparison makes it difficult for them to connect deeply with anyone in the present. The perplexing thing about the dismissive avoidant attachment style is their inner conflict. They crave a lasting and deep relationship, but at the same time they are afraid of being tied down. This keeps them constantly in a tug-of-war between the desire to connect and the need to keep their distance. Instead of facing this emotion, they often choose to withdraw, creating a vicious cycle of loneliness and fantasy. The key to understanding them lies in recognizing that avoidance does not mean not caring. In fact, it is deep fear and hurt that has led them to choose this way to protect themselves. However, with the right approach, you can help them open up and find a balance between independence and connection. To approach someone with an avoidant attachment style, you need to be patient and subtle. They need to feel safe and not pressured. A lasting relationship with them requires not only understanding, but also the ability to accept their limitations, thereby gradually building trust. Understanding the deep wounds hidden behind the facade of independence is the first step to decoding them. Although their behavior can be hurtful, they are not inherently trying to hurt anyone. They are simply protecting themselves from unsafe feelings. With empathy and the right approach, you can help them rediscover the ability to connect, turning idealized fantasies into more realistic and meaningful relationships. Signs of fearful avoidant attachment and the imaginary ex. One of the clearest signs of fearful avoidant attachment is the constant idealization of an imaginary ex, or a life they believe they should have had. This behavior is often triggered when they feel their current partner is getting too close or demanding a level of intimacy they can't handle. To cope, they use the strategy of emotional deactivation, a way to create safe distance by focusing on their partner's imperfections. The current partner is compared to this idealized image, an unrealistic and unattainable picture of perfection. As a result, no one can meet that standard, and the relationship ultimately falls into a state of distance or breaks down. Notably, avoidant individuals often don't realize they are doing this. In their minds, it's not about avoidance or self-protection, but about being honest and finding the right person. If you talk to someone with a fearful avoidant attachment style, they will talk about their genuine desire to find the one, a perfect partner who is in tune with them in every way. They don't realize that this unrealistic expectation is what prevents them from maintaining a deep relationship. Instead of facing their insecurities and core wounds, they embark on an endless journey like running on a treadmill that never stops to find what they think they need. The irony is that their standards are constantly changing. The goalposts move further away each time they think they've almost reached it. This is not because the partner is not suitable, but because the avoidant person is trying to protect themselves from feeling hurt. Idealizing an ex or an idealized version of a relationship allows them to maintain emotional distance without facing their real fears or insecurities. An interesting finding from research and audience feedback is the frequent combination of avoidant and anxious attachment styles in relationships. This is a paradoxical pairing. The avoidant fears losing freedom and independence, while the anxious fears abandonment and constantly seeks reassurance. These two attachment styles inadvertently trigger each other's deepest fears, creating a cycle of tension and conflict. The anxious person often tries to get closer, trying to pull the avoidant person closer. However, each such effort makes the avoidant person feel pressured and withdraw further, creating an endless push-pull cycle. The anxious person feels rejected. The avoidant person feels trapped. And neither realizes that the root of the problem lies in how they react to their core wounds. For the avoidant, breaking this cycle requires deep awareness of their own behavior. They need to learn to distinguish between feeling comfortable with distance and fearing intimacy. This includes acknowledging the unrealistic expectations they have placed on others and accepting that no one, not even the imaginary ex, can be perfect. For the anxious, healing begins with focusing on themselves rather than seeking reassurance from others. Understand that a sense of security comes not from controlling your partner, but from confidence in your own worth. When both sides learn to understand and adjust their responses, the relationship has a chance to move from tension to harmony. The effectiveness of the no-contact rule with avoidant individuals. The no-contact rule is a popular but controversial strategy when trying to reconnect with an ex, especially when that person has a dismissive, avoidant attachment style. The effectiveness of this strategy is not accidental, but stems from the deep psychological principles operating in the avoidant mind. Avoidant individuals, when hurt or feeling pressured, tend to activate their emotional defense system to protect themselves. This system makes them feel the need to create distance and is often the cause of breakups or breakdowns in relationships. However, When there is no interaction from the other person, specifically when you implement the no contact rule, this system has no reason to activate. They are not pressured to keep their distance because the distance has been naturally established. In that quiet space, the avoidant person begins to confront their own deep feelings. They are no longer distracted by the demanding behavior or attempts to approach of the anxious person. This allows them to reflect on the old relationship without being dominated by their defense system. Positive memories, which are often obscured by the defense system, begin to resurface. This is when they feel nostalgic, sometimes accompanied by regret. Anxious individuals often react in the opposite way to the effective approach when faced with a breakup. They try to mend the relationship, communicate constantly, or find ways to persuade the other person to come back. Ironically, these behaviors only cause the avoidant person to become more entrenched in their defenses. Meanwhile, someone with a secure attachment style will understand that distance is sometimes necessary for both parties to reflect and adjust their emotions. It is this silence, though initially uncomfortable, that opens the door for the avoidant person to reevaluate the value of the relationship. Another reason the no contact rule is effective is how avoidant individuals process memories. When they no longer have regular contact with you, they begin to forget the conflicts, the negative emotions, and instead focus on the beautiful memories. This is not accidental but a selective memory mechanism. It makes them idealize the past relationship, sometimes even believing they have lost the perfect person. This idealization plays an important role in making them consider whether to try to rekindle the relationship. In their mind, your image is no longer associated with stress, but instead with positive moments, memories that make them feel connected and happy. Two key factors that make the no contact rule successful are allowing the avoidant person the freedom to process their emotions and helping them realize that new relationships cannot replace you or meet their idealized expectations. This not only makes them feel nostalgic, but also helps them reconnect with the true value of the previous relationship. However, it is important to remember that the no contact rule is not a tool to manipulate someone else's emotions, but a way for both parties to have time to look back and heal. This is also a time for you to focus on yourself, rebuild your confidence and independence, qualities that avoidant individuals are often attracted to. This way, whether they come back or not, you still achieve peace and growth in your journey. And sometimes that peace is what makes them realize the value they have lost. Shifting perspectives, the no contact rule, and the avoidant psyche. A key factor in understanding why the no contact rule is effective with avoidant individuals is its ability to shift perspectives. Often we are controlled by our own thoughts, emotions, and behaviors after the end of a relationship. This is especially true for those with an anxious attachment style, who are prone to panic and seek immediate reconciliation. In many cases, this leads to breaking the no contact rule, an action that inadvertently reinforces the avoidance defenses, causing them to erect even stronger emotional walls. This behavior not only increases the distance, but also negatively affects the avoidant's perception of their ex. They may see their ex as someone who doesn't respect boundaries, or worse, as a threat to their independence. However, if the anxiously attached person does the opposite, maintains the no contact rule and adheres to it, a shift in perspective begins to occur. The ex's sudden silence and lack of contact can change how the avoidant person perceives them. When you stop reaching out, the avoidant person loses the opportunity to activate their defense system. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by their ex's emotions, they are given the space they need to reflect. This silence creates a void where the emotional walls they have built gradually come down. In this state, the avoidant begins to re-perceive you no longer as needy, but as an independent and inaccessible individual. This shift not only reduces the avoidant's fear of engulfment, but also increases their desire. When you keep your distance and focus on yourself, you not only break the familiar pattern, but also change how they feel about you. By becoming distant, you can awaken feelings of loss and nostalgia in them, emotions that are often suppressed by their defense system. The effectiveness of the no-contact rule also lies in its direct impact on the anxious-avoidant dynamic, a paradoxical but common relationship. Anxious and avoidant individuals are often drawn to each other because of how they inadvertently trigger each other's deepest wounds. The anxious crave reassurance, while the avoidant fear being overwhelmed by emotions. This leads to a push-pull cycle, where the more the avoidant withdraw, the no-contact rule breaks this cycle by reversing the dynamic. When the anxious person stops trying and starts focusing on themselves, the avoidant person no longer has a reason to maintain distance. This shift not only frees the anxious person from a state of emotional dependence, but also allows the avoidant person to reevaluate the value of the relationship without feeling pressured. In the avoidant psyche, this shift in perspective is the decisive factor that makes the no-contact rule effective. When you keep your distance, you create the conditions for them to see you in a new light, no longer as dependent or demanding, but as self-sufficient and attractive. This triggers their curiosity and desire to reconnect, especially when they begin to realize that the dating environment out there cannot meet their idealized expectations. Furthermore, the no-contact period not only helps the avoidant person change their perspective, but also creates an opportunity for you to heal and grow. This helps you not only regain control of your emotions, but also build self-worth, which can make you even more desirable in their eyes. The death spiral, avoidant and anxious psychology in relationships. A key concept in understanding avoidant behavior is the death spiral, a recurring cycle of emotions and behaviors that leads to the breakdown of relationships. This cycle helps us understand how avoidant individuals process their emotions, from the stage of longing for connection to ultimately isolating themselves. But not only avoidant individuals, anxious individuals also have their own death spiral, with similar manifestations and consequences, but completely different motivations. Hence, firstly, the avoidance death spiral. The avoidance cycle begins with the stage of longing for love. They desire to be loved, often idealizing a perfect relationship they have never had. This leads to the honeymoon phase, when they enter a new relationship and enjoy a brief feeling of happiness, believing they have finally found the one. But then stage 3 appears. They begin to notice red flags, which are often not real problems, but their own internal insecurities being triggered. Their defense system is erected, they gradually feel insecure and want to create distance. By stage 4, the avoidant person begins to think about leaving the relationship. They don't discuss much with their partner, but choose to withdraw in silence. This leads to stage 5, when they actually leave the relationship. After the breakup, they enter stage 6, often called the happy stage. At this point, they feel relieved to have regained their independence, which is their core wound. But this relief doesn't last long. Stage 7 brings loneliness and self-pity, as they realize that independence also comes with a feeling of emptiness. Finally, they fall into stage 8, when the cycle begins anew, and they continue to seek a new relationship to fill the void. Secondly, the anxious death spiral, and most importantly, the truth about what is truly good. In contrast, anxious individuals also go through a similar cycle, but are driven by the need for reassurance and the fear of abandonment. Initially, they also crave connection and enter the honeymoon phase with high hopes for a perfect relationship. But when stage 3 arrives, when the avoidant person starts to withdraw, the anxious person does not recognize these red flags as a warning. Instead, they become dependent, trying twice as hard to maintain the relationship. This behavior inadvertently triggers the avoidant's defenses, pushing them further away. Think out contact with society and the exerciser. In stage 4, the anxious person clearly senses the impending breakdown, but instead of backing off, they try even harder to get closer, making the situation more tense. When the avoidant person leaves in stage 5, the anxious person enters stage 6, doing everything they can to hold on to their partner, breaking the no-contact rule and inadvertently reinforcing a negative image in the avoidant's eyes. As a result, when they are unsuccessful, they fall into stage 7 of self-blame, feeling lonely and helpless, and finally reach stage 8 with negative thoughts like, "I am the problem," or "I don't deserve to be loved." When these two attachment styles meet, the combination becomes a complex and contradictory loop. The avoidant withdraws, the anxious chases. This pursuit causes the avoidant to build more walls, while the anxious become more deeply caught in a state of dependence. This leads to unhealthy behaviors such as breaking the no-contact rule or trying to control the other person's emotions. Tension increases and the relationship gradually reaches a dead end. Understanding the mechanics of the death spiral is the first step to breaking it. For anxious individuals, it is important to learn to control the need for reassurance by focusing on themselves, building emotional independence, and adhering to the no-contact rule. This not only helps them regain balance, but also creates conditions for the avoidant person to lower their defenses. For the avoidant, awareness of their cycle is key to change. They need to learn to face their emotions instead of avoiding them, as well as seek healthier relationships instead of constantly repeating their cycle. Opening New Doors and Redefining the Relationship, written by Ken Botts. Implementing the no-contact rule is not just a strategy to reconnect with an ex, but also a journey of healing and rebuilding yourself. The most important thing when implementing this rule is not to hope to manipulate the other person's emotions or force them to come back. Instead, you need to set a goal to overcome the old relationship, escape the cycle of negative emotions, and restore your self-worth. Surprisingly, this self-sufficiency and independence have a strong appeal to the avoidant person, while also helping you escape from self-doubt and self-blame. Avoidant individuals tend to put up emotional walls when they feel pressured or threatened by closeness. The no-contact rule gives them a safe space where they don't feel forced to make decisions or confront their partner's emotions. During this time, positive memories begin to return to their minds, replacing the stressful emotions that caused them to withdraw earlier. Without your presence to activate their defense system, they begin to idealize you, just as they idealize everything in their rich inner life. However, this does not happen immediately. Avoidant individuals need time to go through the stages of post-breakup emotions, from relief at regaining independence to loneliness and finally nostalgia. This is why the longer the no-contact rule is implemented, the greater the opportunity for them to reflect and reevaluate the relationship. But even if they don't come back, this rule is still a powerful tool to help you heal and rebuild your own life. Implementing the no-contact rule not only prevents negative self-talk, but also creates the conditions for you to regain control of your emotions. After a breakup, especially when the other person has an avoidant attachment style, the person left behind often feels hurt, self-blaming, and doubtful of their self-worth. The silence you maintain not only helps you escape from immediate emotional reactions, but also allows you to focus on personal growth. During this time, you can invest in your own hobbies, relationships, and goals, things that not only enrich your life, but also restore your confidence. Remember, avoidant individuals are often attracted to independence and self-sufficiency. When you take the time to develop these qualities, you not only become more attractive, but also feel less dependent on the outcome of the no-contact rule. With avoidant individuals, time is a decisive factor. They need a long enough space to go through emotional stages without feeling pressured. A longer time not only allows them to remember the positive aspects of you, but also soothes the tensions that led to the breakup. During this time, they will begin to question their decision and idealize you in their mind. At the same time, a longer period is also an opportunity for you to strengthen your own emotional foundation. Instead of using this time to wait and hope, turn it into a transformative period. Your positive change not only helps you get over your ex, but also increases the possibility of reconnecting in the future, if that's what you want. Although the no-contact rule provides an opportunity for the avoidant person to reflect and return, it is important that you are willing to accept any outcome. The ultimate goal of this rule is not to change the other person's mind, but to restore balance and peace in your own mind. When you can let go of expectations and focus on yourself, you will find that whether the avoidant person returns or not, you have already won the biggest victory. Freedom from hurt and negative emotions. Implementing the no-contact rule is not a short-term strategy, but a long journey to heal and rebuild yourself. For those with an avoidant attachment style, this rule creates the necessary space for them to reflect and change their perceptions. But more importantly, it is an opportunity for you to overcome pain, restore self-retrieval, and grow stronger than ever. This positive change not only makes you more attractive, but also helps you find peace, regardless of the outcome of the relationship. An avoidant ex often comes back not because you try to pull them back, but because you have shown that you can live strong and confident without them. They are attracted to the freedom, independence, and self-worth that you exude when you focus on yourself. Instead of chasing them or trying to change the situation, stand your ground and let time do the rest. Countless people have recovered from exes from elevated moods, barely believing their conscience. Stand. When you decide not to intervene and not try to save the relationship by clinging, you not only maintain your dignity, but also send a strong message. I am strong enough to continue my life, and if you want to come back, you need to be ready. Avoidance individuals, despite trying to appear cold, often contemplate deeply in silence. When you are no longer there for them to easily lean on or idealize, they begin to confront the emptiness you leave behind. The most important thing to remember is that their return, if it happens, is not the ultimate goal. Consider whether this relationship is really worth further investment. A healthy relationship is not only based on reunion, but also on both sides learning to love and respect themselves and bringing that into the relationship. Believe that if you are persistent and focused on building a fulfilling life, your ex will sense the difference in you. If they are mature enough to come back with a more willing mindset, that will be the time for you to consider building a new beginning, one based on true maturity, understanding, and balance. But if they don't come back, you are still the winner because you have chosen yourself and are moving towards a brighter future.